Hello, and welcome to the next video in this series in which we will show you how to create apps and portals using the Silver Essence platform. For this video, you will need the manual that goes along with this training course. You can find that, the business case, and all other information at training.silveressence.net. Go bookmark that page because you're going to need it quite often during this training course. So, let's open up the document and you can read this later on. For this video, we scroll down and we go to the section where we have the database design. That's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to implement the database design as described in the document here. So let's reorganize our tabs here on the top a little bit. Go to training.silveressence.net and we are going to log in as an existing user. Now, if you don't have an account yet, request one at boarding@silveressence.net. So, assuming you have a username and password, go here and log in to the portal. That's your username. That's not case sensitive. The password, yes, it is. When you log in into the portal, you will see a screen of organization. Now, let me explain you a little bit about the business case. We have prepared a template for you, and that template is a simple CRM solution. On top of that simple CRM solution, we are going to add service management. So that's what we're going to build, a simple CRM solution with, on top of that, a service management module. So that's why you see a screen for organizations here. That's from the simple CRM solution. As you can see, there is no data yet entered into the system. So let's start off easy and enter an organization. Let's not make it too difficult, so just click the mandatory button and only fill out the mandatory fields. For example, with your own company and city. So there you have it. That's the way you can enter test data into your portal. But that's not what we came for here today. So let's click the system button up here and let's go to the quick editor. That's the tool from which you can do the configuration. And we ask you again for a username and password. That's not because we want to make it difficult for you, but we want to make it difficult for users that do not have the access rights to the configuration tools, of course. So if you enter the configuration tools, it will always open up with the business entity quick editor. That's a tool you are going to learn later on in this training course. But for this training course, we are going up here to the tool selector, expand the list of available tools, and let's scroll down in this list and let's pick the database editor. This is where you can edit the database behind your Silver solution. In the main screen, you can see all the tables and views that are already present. So these are the tables and views from the simple CRM solution. Here you can edit them or just have a look how they are built. But we are going to start by adding new tables. Now, which new tables do we want to add? Well, that's described in the documentation that goes along with this training course. So open up your document with the database design, and the first table we need to do is a table called locations. So I filled out the name of the table here with the table name, and the primary key column will be location ID. We are going to add a code column, but we're not going to use the description code. We're going to rename it to location number. The location number, we don't want the user to put that in by hand. We want to have it unique. So we'll make it an auto number field here. So that's an integer and it will automatically number up. The description column, we're also going to rename that because a location doesn't have a description. A location should have a name, like the name of a building. The length of it should be 150, and you can change that. We're not going to use an active column. We'll get back to that later. And from the automatically added fields, we select created and modified. Click create table, and there you have it. Your first table for this solution is created. And we are going to need to add more columns. Which columns? That's documented in the database design. So let's first start with text fields, which are strings, and we are going to add the address, which should be about 50 characters. Then we're going to add the postal code, which isn't that long, so let's make that 10. You can change that if you like. And after that, we're going to add a text field for city, and that again should be 50. And after having the city, let's add the possibility to add a phone number. Let's make that 20. We're going to add a fax number, and we're going to add an email. And since some people have quite long email addresses, let's make that again 150 here. So let's see, we're going to have text fields to add a contact person to the location so we know who to call. And let's make that 50. So that's already getting its shape here. Now we're going to add fields from another type, and we are going to add a few unique identifiers. Those columns are often used as referral to other tables. So we're going to add a parent location ID. So you can have a location that is part of a location, like having a floor within a building or a room on that floor. And we're going to add an owner organization ID so we know who the location belongs to. So there you have it. That's the basic design of your location table. So let's move along and let's go to the service objects table. And here I'm going to make a simple mistake and I will show you how to correct it. The table name I enter is service objects, and the primary key column will be the service object ID. The service object will have a service object number, and again that will be an auto number as is already selected on the right. Now, a service object that can have a description. The description can be 150 long. I keep the settings here on the bottom and I create the table. Now I can start entering additional fields here, like a service object is linked to an owner organization. So I want to have owner organization ID. And a service object is at a specific location, so I need the location ID. And as you can see on the right, in the list of columns, you see I forgot to add the active column. So let's enable this and drop the table. Here's what you need to know. If you're not satisfied with your database design, or you're not satisfied with the table, this is the best time to correct. If you have the table fully in your configuration, it will be a lot more difficult to make corrections later on. So if you're not satisfied, simply enable that box, delete the table, and then re-edit again. So here we're going to re-edit again. We'll give the code column the name object number. It should be an integer with an auto number. The description column, we'll leave that as description, and we'll leave the length at 150. Now, this time I'm going to check the active column, and it will be added along with created and modify. Now, of course, I could have added a simple yes, no field later on, but I wanted to show you that it's possible to enable that little screen at the left bottom, and there you can delete the table or you can truncate the table. Truncate means you delete all the data in the table, but leaving the table itself intact. Now, of course, if you're doing this on a production environment where there's real data in the database, make sure that before deleting a table, or as I'm showing you now, deleting a column, be sure you have a backup of your database. Well, there you have it. That's the table for the service objects, and it's complete here. Now, let's go back to the document and add another table. Let's see, that would be the service issues. Service issue types. Service issues types will have service issue type ID. It will have a code column, and in this case I want to add the code manually. So I pick here a string column, 10 characters. And I'm going to have a code column. I am going to use the active column and create it and modify it as well. So there you have it, a simple table for picking from simple lists like service issue types. You can create it very fast. Next table we are going to add is the table for the service issues. Service issues will have a service issue ID. We will have a issue number, which is again an integer with an auto number, and service issues will have a description as well. We're not going to use an active column, but we're going to use created and modify. Now we're going to add a few columns here. First, the references that we are going to add. The service issue is, of course, related to service objects, so we're going to add service object ID. Next reference we are going to make is the service issue belongs to a specific organization, so we're going to add organization ID. Let's see, we have those two. Then we are going to switch to the date time fields. We are going to add a column for issue date, the date when the service issue was reported. And we are going to add an action date, the date when something should be done about the issue. Then we are going to have a next column that is an unlimited string for the issue text and for the follow-up. So that's two text blocks where you can add a large amount of text. And then we are going to add a yes no column, and that will be processed, and that's because we want to mark the service issue as completed by having a button processed later on. So that's it for the tables. If you're not familiar with databases and SQL, simply go to w3schools.com/SQL. There you will find a lot of information. If you're not familiar with that, simply copy paste the views as we have here in the document that goes along with this video. So we are going to add not a table but a view here. The view should have a name. Let me look again. That should be X locations. So that is an extension we are going to do on the locations table. Go down here, simply paste the view in here, and on the bottom click parse this SQL. And there you see it's a valid statement. Now, if you mess up the statement and we add some characters here to mess it up deliberately, you will see the button in the middle disappear because the SQL statement is not valid. Once it's valid again, then you can submit the view to the database. And there you have it, the X locations view has been added here. That's the first view. So let's go and pick the other one. That will be X service objects. Click the Add View button, X service objects, and paste the view down here, parse the view, and then submit it. Well, this is going along nicely, so let's move on to the third view, which will be X service issue types. So click the Add View button again. We're going to create the view X service issue types, and then we're going to paste in the SQL statement right here, and we're going to click parse view. And here we will get an error, and that's because we forgot to add a column to the service issue table. So I will show you how to correct. Let's go back to the list of tables and views. Click the edit icon for service issues. And here we are going to add a unique identifier for the service issue type. That's the one we forgot and which is included in the view. So you can always go back and change the table later on. But again, if you can do it perfect the first time, make sure you do it perfect the first time. Here we are going to add the view again, X service issue types, parse the view, and if it's correct, you can submit the view. Well, then there's one more here to go. So select the SQL statement from the document, click the Add View button, create view X service issues as, and paste the view here. Parse the view, and then you can submit it. And there you have it. The database structure as described in the document is implemented.